So without much ado, I want to request Dr. Siyoi to come here and share with us about the regulatory perspective. Thank you. And later on, I'll be requesting some of the pharmacists in practice outside the country to speak to us through the online platform. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Njogu. I know I was given 30 minutes, but I'm not able to speak for 30 minutes. The conferences I've gone to and presented is usually 10 minutes, and I'm used to 10 minutes. So I'll try to summarize what I want to say. First, let me thank the University of Nairobi School of Pharmacy for inviting me to this meeting. I feel humbled and appreciated, given that Professor Guantai was my lecturer. And also she's the one who was my supervisor when I was doing my last year. Now, we look like age mates now, but she was my supervisor. I graduated in 1988, the class of 88. As Keegan said, he was a class ahead, but he's also my brother-in-law. So it's a bit confusing. I thought on the symposium there would be regulation, but it is pharmacy practice. So I know there's no right and wrong and right answer. So I'll attempt to answer the question: pharmacy practice, evolution of pharmacy practice, regulators' perspective on the contribution of the University of Nairobi. Let me begin by saying that the University of Nairobi is what we use as a gold standard for the profession of pharmacy. And we have had a lot of immense contribution and impact from graduates from the university, not just the graduates, even the lecturers. So when I may talk about UoN, I'm talking about the contribution of the lecturers and the contribution of the graduates who went through the University of Nairobi, because some of them were not trained here, but they've contributed immensely to the regulation of pharmacy practice. Now, there are two things we regulate: the profession itself, the people. That's when you enter pharmacy school. We give you an index and we monitor you through until you graduate. You do the exams where you now enter into the profession, and then you keep doing CPD all the way until the day you pass away and you are called to heaven or hell. So that's one role of the pharmacy board. The second role is the products. We look at the products also from, we call it the life cycle of a product. From the time it starts with animal studies all the way until you use it and disposed. So there are regulatory functions which are 9. One of them we are not yet doing, which is what we call lot release. The rest of the functions we are doing. And that's where I want to relate the university, the contribution of the university. I'll not say all of them, but I just want to emphasize a few so that you see what the university has done for the evolution of regulation. Initially in 1981, there started what we call drug registration. And I think it was the only function that was well known. So the board had no staff. So we had to look for experts outside. And most of them who came to do the registration, it's a process, it's not easy. It may take 2 years to evaluate and register a product, were actually lecturers from the university because they had expertise at master's, PhD levels. So that was the first function. Then we have evolved, trying to increase the number of those regulatory functions. There came inspection. Initially, people used to walk through an industry, just walk through, say, clean, yone safi, kona namna hii. But we found that things had changed in the world. Regulation is very dynamic. And Dr. Wanyanga was in industry and a board member. So I was brought in 1999 and told, take care of inspection. Inspection then was like police. We come and arrest you because you are dispensing drugs over the counter. But there was more to it than that. The real inspection was looking at how things are cooked in the factory. Because even if you test at the end, and it was already bad, and the formularies, the pharmacopoeias, there are things that they specify that are tested. But they will not test if cockroaches were present when you are mixing. You mix the syrups with cockroaches. So, again, with the university, we are guided and we began what we call good manufacturing practice. So, again, thank you very much, the University of Nairobi, for your contributions when we are doing the guidelines. When we were starting to learn the methodology on how to do the inspection, Professor Kibwage, Professor Guantai were very instrumental. Professor Maitai, Professor Muriuki, late, were very instrumental, even with just words of encouragement. I remember I used to get my lectures from Professor Muriuki in a bar somewhere when he's taking his 2 beers. He says, young man, sit here. I'm going to tell you how these things are done. And it worked. 2, clinical trials. Before I became acting chief pharmacist, those days the chief pharmacist was also registrar. Clinical trials were at random. There was no inventory of clinical trials in this country. But the National Drug Policy of 1994 talked about clinical trials, what should be done. So when we tried to implement, some people said, no, there is no law. But I remember Professor Kokwaro and group, they called me down there to welcome, it's an institution down there, Welcome Trust. And he told me, look here, young man, these things can be done. This is what we are going to do. There's a policy already. Let people talk. Let's prepare what? The tools. And the tools were prepared. I got a few clinical pharmacists in the board who had done clinical pharmacy from here. The ones Karimi was talking about. I think the first cohort or second cohort, Dr. Kimatu. I told them now we are going to move with this. Yeah. Then we called a meetings for stakeholders. They made noise, but I remember Professor Muriuki again standing up. He was a board member and told people that, look, those who are refusing this is those people who want to export tissues and others doing funny things elsewhere, and they are not in the inventory. So we pushed it, and that's what clinical trials are today. I think we are rated as one of the best in control of clinical trials. I remember during COVID, it came up in a State House sometimes, and I remember Professor Anzala was the one defending us, saying the Pharmacy and Poisons Board has a robust system that you cannot dodge. You would have to pass through it. So again, that's the contribution of Ujipigie makofi hata nyinyi watu wa university. Now let me come to the last one because I don't want to speak too much. Is pharmacovigilance. You don't know, those of you who don't know what you've contributed. Again, it started as a joke. I went for FIP. And that time there was nobody from the University of Nairobi but FIP. I was there with Dr. Ombogo. I think it's the two of us. And then I met Keith Johnson from the US. We asked us if you are from Kenya. Yes, we are from Kenya. He said, okay. He was holding a seminar on pharmacovigilance. So he told us, instead of you paying, I'll pay for you. Paid for us. We attended the seminar. And then from there, I now remembered, there's a young man called Jayesh who's just finished internship. And he had a master's in that specific area from Mysore in India. So I told him, now, Jayesh, we need to move this. And you report to me direct. Projects, report to the boss. So he started reporting. I told him, can you do these tools? Do what? Do what? He did. We started growing slowly with a lot of resistance still. But at some point, the momentum had taken up. So fast forward then, there came a project called Proforma, where we were how many countries? 5, Professor. Yeah. And the beneficiaries were students have to be trained in pharmacovigilance and pharmacoepidemiology, which was only available at the University of Nairobi. And even before that curriculum was made, Prof, you remember, we sat and agreed that we need people in this field. There are those of clinical trials. I remember Professor Toidi, who was 2 years ahead of me in school. She really encouraged and said, we need to expand the areas of specialization. And she agreed that pharmacovigilance is one of them, epidemiology, toxicology, industrial pharmacy. So when you see some of those courses that are being taught at master's level at the University of Nairobi, it is between the board and the university, because it's us who know the market. So, pharmacovigilance and pharmacoepidemiology started, people have been trained there. At PhD level, then we had Christabel, because she's the one who had written the grant. So when the money came, I told her she's to be the first beneficiary. There was no balloting. I said, because of jasho yako, ukue wa kwanza she finished her PhD in that specific field in the University of Karolinska in Sweden. And we went there with Professor Guantai, Professor Luca, we witnessed. And we were very happy, Christopher. I think you talked this morning. So again, you can see that for our regulations now on the other side, people with pharmacoepidemiology masters, Pamela, Mandale, there's a Mandela, there's who, all of them trained there. They are the ones driving the processes at the board. Then we have those who did industrial pharmacy. I think we now have 2 within the board. And people can now see we are starting to even evaluate APIs, which was a difficult, we didn't know who will do these APIs. Now we have people trained from the University of Nairobi who can do evaluation of APIs. So I don't want to say more than that. Maybe again say, this is not a good forum to talk about the profession, too much of it. It's just a highlight to indicate to you the way the others have said that the opportunities are limitless. Yeah, even if you look at nephrology, now they are going to specific areas in nephrology. So Unless you don't want to open your eyes, utafikiri the chances are limited. Even if we employed 100 of you, only for medicine information, you are not enough. Say the economy itself cannot absorb everybody, but I'm encouraging you to be open-minded and look at, innovations, innovating things. And as you innovate and invent, you create more employment. So, Dr. Njogu, I think you let me sit down. Thank you very much.
Again, another round of applause to our regulator. Thank you very much, Dr. Siyoi. We appreciate that. And to the young pharmacists, you hear the opportunities are limitless. Now, allow me to introduce Dr. Louis Machogu, the current president of Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. Please welcome him with a hand of applause.
Afternoon, everyone. Respected seniors, esteemed colleagues, you're in the right place. Yeah. First of all, congratulations for being in the right place. Congratulations for 50 years of the School of Pharmacy. I represent the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. I've served as the president for the last 7 years. So whenever, you can put my presentation, whenever I have been, as my time has come to an end, I've been hearing this question coming up, what next? Yeah? You served us all this time, what next? So my background is I'm a community pharmacist, but I'm also an entrepreneur. Yeah? That's my background. And I'll speak to the issue of policy, but first allow me to start with the journey. Yeah, and I like speaking about my journey using my colleagues who are in class with. So today I'm here to speak about the contribution of the UoN Pharmacists in the evolution of pharmacy regulation over the last 50 years. I have a presentation because I also am a politician. I can branch like this, so I have a structure so that I can utilize the time that I've been given well. And this is a practitioner's perspective, yeah? So what are you seeing there? I like what Dr. Adera said, yeah? You can blaze and create a path, yeah? When I started, which one is the pointer? Okay. Oh, yeah. When I started here, I did not know about here. You understand? Here you can look back and see a nice story, but it's not always like. For you to be what do you call, Dr. Ogaja is here, another trailblazer will understand this. When you are here, you start afraid, start confused, start as you are, with whoever you have. Sindio? With the realities as they are. Dr. Joyce Gikunda said, ukiuza cabbage, sell as the pharmacist. Does that make sense? Yeah? Kuna mtu ameniona kwa TV ananipigia sahi. So I came to the School of Pharmacists 2001 October. I left October 2005. I left with some good friends. There was me, my wife Jackie was my classmate. Yeah. Dr. Francis there, Dr. Edwin Baraza, Charlie, and David, yeah? All of us were in the same class. Just the same way you guys are seated there. I'm not saying anyone's anything, but at least you be each other's friends. We started there. We had mentors in Professor Kibwage, Professor Gwantai, mnaweza wapigia makofi. We also had Professor Oluka, who actually was when you do your projects, you go. She was my supervisor. Professor Kokwaro was across the road. He was doing Cambridge contrast things across the road. Professor Ombega introduced us to clinical pharmacy. Professor Shital came one day and introduced us to something called health systems. We were like, what are these? It was like a new world, yeah, in class. Yeah. Dr. Eric Kwantai was there. We were looking up to him. He had a nice car. He was a tutorial fellow of those days. Yeah, Dr. Kirimi, who just spoke, introduced us to clinical pharmacy, Buiruria. We used to go to the ward rounds with them. And that's now where you realize, oh, actually, I can add value to not just medicines, yeah? Not just kupera pesa, I can add value to the patients. And this whole lot, the whole lot of us here, we all went different directions. But first we went for internship. I was posted to Mararal, Samburu. Na najua Samburu iko wapi? Sile ya Mombasa, ile ya? Yes. I was posted to Mararal as a district pharmacist. You're in meetings with the DCI guys, you are with the district, county, provisional, like in Mararal, they are bandits. Those days, there were no roads. So you are sending help to a certain Baragoi, somewhere, what people have been attacked. You're in that, you're in there, you're making a decision for people in that district. And you have just graduated. Yeah? Hatukufundisha kwa shule. Sindio? Yeah? Oh, yeah. You just show up, and that's what the responsibility you are given. Yeah? You are meant to ensure that the district pharmacists and all the 30 hospitals have medicines and have systems that are functional. So unajaribu kukumbuka, what did Dr. Shital say about systems? Sindio? You're in district health committee meetings, you're in the provincial health committee meetings. Dr. Naikuni used to be is now at the board, was our provincial pharmacist. So that's how we were saying. Moniki went to Lugari, David went to Machakos, my wife went to Kitui. So I used to leave Mararal to Kitui. Si lazima uende so that nothing new happens. So yeah, so we had PPB there. When we finished, we were registered. Dr. Siyoi signed my PPB certificate. When I post it to you, you'll see that Dr. Siyoi's famous signature there, F. Siyoi. All of you have that. I think when I saw that, even me, I used to scribble. I changed my signature to have my name. It's important so that it's a brand. So Dr. Siyoi is a Makofia. Dr. Siyoi. Dr. Mika was our student rep when he finished in 2004, 3. Yeah, he was our NUPSA chair. Yeah. So that's how the journey went. 2007, the 4 of us to get together, and Dr. Shah was leaving the country, an elderly pharmacist of Asian origin. He decided to leave us with his pharmacy. So we found a pharmacy, and 2 of us, David and myself, used to be the people who were working there, because Edwin took a path. Now he's a health economist. He is a country director for Cambridge Wellcome Trust, a place where he used to go serve Professor Kokwaro on voluntary. You remember Professor Kokwaro was here yesterday? Yeah? Professor Kokwaro used to get grants, but he also doesn't have all the money in the world. So he used to come to our class and ask us, who can come and serve? The people who used to go is Baraza, Edwin Baraza, is now a professor. And Professor Charles Opondo is now a professor of statistics and health clinical trials at Oxford University, not in Masaku, he heads that, yeah. And my wife also, who leads clinical trials in Africa. She's worked from GSK, many other organizations, from doing what? Voluntary work at Professor Kokwaro. So something was said about volunteering. You might find I might need people to work with, because hii kazi ni ngumu, si ndio? You need professionals. And there's no way a professional will refuse to pay you if the money is there, si ndio? But at least they should not make you work without giving you bus fare and lunch, so that you figure yourself out. That's what Professor Kokoro gave the rest. Why am I sharing this? So that you can see breadcrumbs for yourself to get you to where you need to get to. Francis and myself ni watu wa jua kali, sisi tu maybe tumefanya MBA, but tuko tu hapo, we are entrepreneurs. Yeah? We are the ones who make sure that you get your share by paying taxes. Sindio? Dr. David, they run a university, Lukenya University. So we started that. We had an online pharmacy, but it was a bit ahead of its time. Internet wasn't that fast. We left it. Then Professor Charlie had he was good in coding. So he coded and developed a hospital management information system. Yeah, it used to be built on Access. So that's what we used to dispense when we were at Sears. Yeah. But he got his grant to go study his PhD. The company ikafungika because he was the head of tech. So now we didn't have something to pursue. But most of you know me from Halton's days, yeah? So Halton's, we had an opportunity. We were the first to attract private equity funding into like a startup. So that was in 2013. So the other one maybe was Professor Kalebi, who runs Lancet. Now he runs Dr. Kalebi Labs. Those of you might know. So we were really pioneers. We were ahead of our time. And with that, we were able to take our ideas and scale them. So our idea was put a pharmacist, pharmtech in a pharmacy and scale. Yeah. But that scale to 52 pharmacies, for some reason, I was a bit naive. I found myself out of the company. Yeah. You remember when Steve Jobs created Apple, then the next thing he was kicked out. That's what happened to me. Yeah. I found myself out. But what it is, it continued hiring more pharmacists and continued like that. Yeah. And all these are like experiments. So don't hold things too tightly. The lessons I've learned is don't hold things too tight. Learn the lesson and quickly readapt. Sindio? Na usiogope ku step. Don't be afraid to step ahead because you don't have the full answers. You will step, you'll make some mistakes. You are not your mistakes. You quickly wrap up and move to the next assignment. Yeah. When my assignment ended, I was inspired by that day. There was Dr. Mwaniki, they were running elections and all those things. So I decided to come in as a president for PSK. So I served as president of PSK during our term. When I was campaigning, I campaigned on levels of practice. I wanted to see how can we bring levels of practice to, like a position paper or even just have a policy document from PPB. And I'll talk about that next. After that, Mwaniki and his wife ran Isopharm, which is a distributor, and together we are working together to start a group practice. So my wife and I, we are running a group practice. We have 4 branches, 6 pharmacies, 3 pharmaceutical technologists, and we hope to have 50 of those technical. So if you are here, you want to serve in community pharmacy, you want to learn from people like us, that's where we are going. So I'm talking about our next. Where that looks like in the future, we want to be the biggest franchise or group practice franchise. Like lawyers, the way they have group practice. That's what we want to go to. So that's what I'd like to invite all of you here who are students. I remember when we were students, we used to lock them. You can still do that. You can come and learn. So we would like to invite you to that journey. Yeah. I'm talking about this because my term has ended. Now I need to direct you to where I am going. Yeah. And all of you know about PSK, so I don't need to sell PSK. PSK, you know PSK. We have meetings every month. You belong to a branch, and it's important to belong to PSK because it's your advocacy group and it's where you do all these things. You get to meet all these people, they belong to a branch. Yeah. When I campaigned on levels of practice. It was about community and primary care. Those days, it sounded like far-fetched, but I knew this because when I used to run Halton's, I was wondering, can you put 1 pharmacist and maybe 3 pharmtechs? Like a branch run by a pharmacist and several branches run by it so that you have a referral network. And those plug to hospitals, referral, clinicians, and things like that. Yeah, that was the vision. So when I came in, we tried to push that, and thankfully, with the help of Dr. Siyoi, we now have the good pharmacy practice guidelines that recognize levels of practice. I think we need to clap for that, yeah? What that means is now you can have clear definition of roles in there. Yes, you can say, oh, but the license is the same. You're able to practice the same, but we have levels of practice now. Yeah. The next thing now is how then do we bring pharmacists to the ground? Unfortunately, we don't have pharmacists in community pharmacy. They are a handful. Yeah. The numbers we have is we are almost out of the 5,000 pharmacies that are registered, community pharmacies, we only have, at most, we have 10% of that. Yeah. Being pharmacists. I don't know if anyone is seeing the opportunity there. Yeah. I want that number to sink in. Yeah. 5,000. Yeah. So it means there's a lot of opportunity. And what I'd like for you to envision a practice where you collaborate physicians on the other end, you as pharmacists in primary care and farm techs. Because we want to crowd out the quacks. We want to crowd out anyone who is not trained to be in the profession of pharmacy. So we have the Green Cross for pharmacists and the Blue Cross. I think you've started seeing that difference in community because the public has been asking, how do I know where a pharmacist is? You get a Green Cross. Where a farm tech is, you get a Blue Cross. Something new? That's why you're getting CPD points, huh? For this thing. The vision also started from, like you look, the structure we found was, it was like a pyramid structure. Like we are many of us down here. We are 5,000 pharmacists, 9,000 farm techs. We are all down there. We're all working towards becoming a chief of something. Sindio? A chief in a hospital, a chief in something. But is there a better way that makes us this way? So you have a more, flat structure where you have in training, so the people in school, you have interns, you have farm techs who are able to even upgrade to pharmacists and specialists. You understand? Not every farm tech will upgrade. Not every pharmacist will upgrade. Of course, specialists now, they like in a professor and demo, they go and practice, we refer. So is there a way we can create a structure? And that's really the direction we took as levels of practice. Come from here. The problem with this structure, it's the license, you practice at the same level, whether you're a pharmacist or a farm tech. So maybe you are practicing beyond your scope. So are you creating chaos down there? Are patients dying because the care that was provided was beyond the scope of the person who provided it? You understand? Yeah. Is it loading costs? Maybe my diabetes can be managed better. Yeah. Is there poor accountability? Yeah. Who's really responsible for that decision that was made? Because as a pharmacist, you are allowed to by law, you're allowed to make a prescription and, dispense to your customer of certain ailments that you get there at primary care. But you find everyone does it. So where is the accountability? So today, if someone was taken to court, where is the accountability? Poor value, patients get poor value. There's a lot of unemployment, a lot of unfulfilled careers. Even the farm techs themselves are unfulfilled because they would like to upgrade, but they're saying, we are all the same. Yeah. A lack of innovation, because why should I innovate? When you go and specialize, you're actually innovating. But why should I yet, and it creates underemployment. Yeah. In the industry. So the interventions we've been doing is a good pharmacy practice guidelines. PPB have those already in place. Schedules for health products and technologies. I think that's waiting the cabinet secretary's gazettement, whom we've invited to the symposium in Mombasa. We have the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya conference in Mombasa in the 3rd week of June. I would like for all of us to be there, and some of the things are going to be addressed at those. Costed pharmacy benefit packages. Because you have levels of practice, and you have the delineation of what you're meant to be doing there, we can now have benefit packages provided by farm techs and pharmacists. And in those benefit package authority that was committee that was created by the Honorable Dwale, there are pharmacists there. And they have our dossier on what, patients need to get at that level. National pharmaceutical policy looks in training, products, health services. You as a provider, you registered as there's a registry of healthcare providers. You as a healthcare provider, not just as a place where medicines are dispensed. Yeah. Quality of care bill. That was one of the bills that was meant to go with the chief emergency care, chronic care, but it didn't. It's there in the works. There's a Kenya Health Products and Technologies Regulatory Authority bill. It's now in Senate. That's a crucial bill, and I think it would be good if that bill, if by the time Dr. Siyoi is leaving office, he should leave us with that bill into an act where we have the product and the profession. And the product, we want the product together with the vet products. I know it's ikona harufu. Someone said, did you hear that? But we want the vet products together with the human products, because health is, yeah, both animal and human. Yeah. And the pharmacy, so PPB will remain as a practice for the farm techs and pharmacists and specialist pharmacists, while the product will go with the Health Products and Regulatory Authority Bill. And we need to also look at investment case for private pharmacy practice. Yeah? Where will that take us to? We'll get the outcomes of WHO maturity level 3, and I think, by the way, by the time Dr. Siyoi is leaving, we'll have maturity level, I think, maturity level 4. We shall have. May is optional. We shall have. Yeah, what that does mean, it means more investment, more dollars coming in for investment, more knowledge and skills transfer. So when you have these manufacturers coming in, then we're able to level up, yeah, so that our products can be sold in the region and bought by their governments, yeah. Career development, value-based care, increased manufacture of HPTs, and all those things. Again, so yesterday, I had this slide today morning after what I had yesterday, Professor Kokoro said. He asked us a question. Are you a leader or a holder of office? It really, it shook me. Yeah? It made me ask, am I a leader? Because I like to see myself as a leader, but maybe I've just been warming the seat, yeah, of the President of Society of Kenya, Sindio. But some of you are not presidents of societies of Kenya, Sindio. You are still you're a leader. You're a leader of your own self. You're a leader in the profession. Yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So how and where are you adding value? So I made this slide just to answer some of these things for yourself. You may be somewhere and say, I'm not a president. I'm not Dr. Siyoi. Where can I add? Yeah. So that's an important question to add. So this is a bonus. It wasn't there in the presentation. Yeah. So there's health for all. 70% of Kenyans live over 2 hours away from care. Quality care, not just any care. Sio bora tu care, healthcare bora. You understand? So if 70% of Kenyans live over 2 hours away from quality care, I should have added their quality care. Where are you as a pharmacist? And every community has a community pharmacy. It's because you are missing on the ground as a pharmacist. Healthy communities. You'll find that there's a question there around, if someone leaves Wote and comes to Machakos, at the hospital, more than 40% of the times, they won't get the medicine they were prescribed for. Yeah? So lazima ende atafute. That mama should know, if I go there, there's a pharmacist there in that town. Even if public doesn't have, they will get me the medicine. Yeah? Accountability. More than 30% of cases of counterfeits. Those are numbers that are out there. If you go to Nigeria, it's even worse, 50%. But I don't even want to just deal with counterfeit only. Unqualified people handling patients at the pharmacy. Non-pharmacists, non-pharm techs. Yeah? There's poor accountability in over 30%. It could be even higher. Adherence. The patient got the medicine, but they were so shameful to tell the physician that I stopped taking the medicine because it's expensive. Because they're no longer the MD for wherever they used to work. They just go, show face, and don't buy the medicine. That is called what? Adherence. More than 50% of patients who go to hospitals don't get to comply with the medicine the way they are meant to. And that's where you come in as a pharmacist. Yeah? Functional health system. So there's this acronym, STIPO. I'm sure you all know it. You can say it in ululation. The S stands for safe, T, timely, E, ziko nyingi you won't miss. Efficient, yeah, effective, equitable. I think Dr. Twitter was here in the morning speaking about some thrombosis issues, yeah? I think he's talking about Klexen. I think that's where he came from, yeah? And you are there, you're intervening. Is this the most safest and effective way or efficient way of serving these patients? And it's also person-centered and outcome-based. What are you doing around that? A functional health system. Because that's what a functional health system should do. Leadership in the workplace, Professor Kokwaro talked about people, processes, capital, and information. You are there, you don't have capital. But there's a pharmacist here who has a practice who can hire you. Sindio? And so how can you partner together? Shaping the future, WHO says that there's a projected shortage of 6.1 healthcare workers by 2030. However, at the same time, there's 4.2 million clinically trained healthcare workers who don't have it's very paradoxical, sindio? Yeah? So what are you doing about that? And this could be maybe to our senior pharmacists. Empowering group practices. And that's where now my wife and I are moving towards too. How can we, because we found that there's a gap. You're trained here, you're good clinically, but leadership and entrepreneurial skills. Sindio? Yeah. How many of you will accept transport and lunch to learn about leadership and entrepreneurial skills, access resources, and market access tools for your pharmacy? Those who want to go to community pharmacy. Oh, even some here, yeah? Now I've been speaking there, yeah? Yeah. But that's, these are questions, eh? Professor Kokwaro said, are you a leader or an office bear? Maybe you're just warming the seat there as a student. Your seat could be for someone else. But there are things you can be doing here. Sindio? Yeah. So this is the future we're going to. That's Dr. Johnson Wanjohi. The young pharmacists I've supported over the years. Some pharmacists there we were meeting. So I'm looking at bringing together pharmacists to design and shape a future where, I like saying when I meet the pharmacists, we want to push the medicines behind. That's why you're seeing them behind the counter. In my previous world in Haltons, we used to have the medicines in front, so the patient can, it was like more of a trade, which is good. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but I feel there's an opportunity for us to push the medicines behind and push services in front. Yeah? Services like what? Family planning, vaccination, Dr. Twitter talked about in the morning, and that's what I'd like to challenge us. The regulatory framework is there. I don't know, let's ask Dr. Siyoi if some of you are fearful. Is this something we can do? Dr. Siyoi, maybe you tell us yes or no. Yeah? Yes, yeah? That's an emphatic yes. He's a regulator. He says these are things you can do. So how can we come together and change the landscape? Yeah? I like talking about Dr. Kalebi because we all started together, Dr. Kalebi of Lancet Laboratories. And we started out, he's also an alumni of this university, and he teaches here, I think, as well. I would like to come back and teach, but I like to teach entrepreneurship. I don't know if there's space for me. Yeah. My wife has a master's in clinical trials. Maybe she can come teach that. But this is what I like to come and teach. Because if we fix this, then we'll be employers of each other. Yeah. When we came together and put funds, only 2 of us were employed by the 4 of us put funds together. The rest went to the other careers, which is important. There must be others looking for money through their salaries to take loans and invest. The rest of us to be employed here. Because some of us are more here focused, others are more focused elsewhere. I think that was the end of my presentation. Before I go, it just comes down. So back to speaking to the topic of resilience. For me, it comes down to, from my own journey, I'm looking at it, look at your life in cycles. Don't look at it uko mwisho. It will really be hard to surmount. So look at your life in 3-year cycles. What do you want to achieve over the next 3 years? Who do you want to be with? Sindio? That's why when I nilitoka university, I made sure I live with colleagues. I also made sure I live with a wife because I don't know kwenje soko iko aje. Yeah? So, because I've seen the character here, like that. I want to go there and deal with other things, not try to figure out whether ni yeye si yeye. Sindio? But focus in your classwork. That's not. You should also be patient. Don't be fearful of restarting. You will start, you will fail. My failure was very spectacular. When my company was pulled away from me, it was very spectacular. You go high, you fall with a big thud. How do you move on? Sindio? You need friends who know you and who can support you beyond just your big name. Sindio? Yeah? You need to a place to belong. the best place to belong as pharmacists is PSK. Yeah, that's why I'm stepping down. There are others who are coming to lead us. Yeah, and I'm really a champion and proponent. You remember before I was a proponent, for the last 7 years, I've been proponent of levels of practice. Hiyo kazi imeisha. Sasa next ni group practices. Mtakuwa mkiniona mahali popote kama Professor Ndemo, MTM. Mimi nitakuwa nikiimba group. Yeah, asante.
Thank you very much, Louis. We appreciate very much. And our students, I hope you are inspired. There are so many things that you can do. We have our advocate here at PSK. He's been doing that for the longest time I can remember. And the good thing with him also is that he's a practitioner. So he says something that he does. We appreciate that very much.